And so he is our defender. But meekness is not weakness. It is strength that comes under control. It is strength under control. But here's what real humility is about. Humility means recognizing that you are not God, and it is not your job or responsibility to run the world. Now, I've seen side-by-side photos of presidents on the day of their inaugurations, and then the same president when he left office 4 years or 8 years later. The aging acceleration is drastic. Sometimes it almost looked like the person who comes out of office could have been the father of the one who went in. The aging is accelerated during that time because of the constant pressure and because of the genuine indispensability of the person and the awareness of the consequences of mistakes that they can make. Those things wear a person down. But the Bible talks about Moses being the most meek man on the face of the earth. And understand that there were other meek people. There were meek shepherds, there were meek farmers, there were meek people who took trash out of the camp. But Moses was the meekest man because he realized this thing is not about me, it is about God. But Moses, because he was meek, he is contrasted as being just as vigorous at the end of his life at 120 years old as he was when God first summoned him at 40. So the Bible teaches that Moses' natural force was not abated. He had the strength of a 40-year-old when he was 120. You know why? Because he was not carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, because he realized it's not about me. It's not all about me. It is not about me. But his secret was his humility. He realized that he was not God and that he was not responsible to run the world. He realized that the Israelites were God's people, not his. And so humility, it is not merely self-effacement nor false humility. Humility is the realization that not everything that happens in life is all about you. Remember now that humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It's just thinking of yourself less. In other words, humility is the opposite of the word narcissism. Narcissism. Now you have to look that up when you go home. N-A-R-C-I-S-S-I-S-M. Narcissism. It is, in its simplest understanding, it is egoism or egocentrism, where you act as though the whole universe revolves around you. I know that none of you have ever met a person who thought that they were the center of the universe. But I know some people who interpret everything that happens to them as though the whole world revolves around nobody but them. I mean, just like if it rains on a girl's wedding date and she all of a sudden, because she's narcissistic, she thinks that there is a cosmic conspiracy to ruin her wedding. But the truth of the matter is that it is just weather. And while she's crying over it raining on her wedding day, there's a farmer who is rejoicing. There's a gardener who's saying, thank God. There's a homeowner who's just planted grass seeds that is saying, goody, rain finally. And so it's not just about you. Remember now that Moses' humility helped him to understand that his successes were not his but God's, and that he was only an instrument in the hand of God, and that the failures that he experienced, like the golden calf or the grumbling of the people over the lack of food or the lack of water, that these were arguments between the people and God and not the people and Moses. Moses understood that. One man who spent most of his adult life in prison, almost knowing that he would be caught and bring shame to his family, he was asked, why did he do it? And here was his response. I mean, why would you do this criminal behavior, knowing that you're eventually going to be caught, knowing that it would bring shame on your family? And this is what he said, is that when something is missing inside you, there is something exhilarating about deciding that you are above the law, that the rules don't apply to you. Now that would explain why a teenager would shoplift even though they can easily afford the item that they just shoplift. It's not about trying to get something that they desperately needed and they didn't have the money. There are people that are going in and shoplift and they got money in their pocket to buy that item 10 times over. It's not even about that. You see, grandiosity tells us that we are special and that the rules and that the prohibitions don't apply to us. They apply to other people, but they don't apply to us. But humility is the cure for those faults. The way to rise above them is by lowering yourself. You see, expecting the world to treat you fairly, hear me carefully, because some people are so narcissistic that they think that everything ought to be about me. And when something happens and they interpret it, well, you know what? I wouldn't have hit you had you not been the one. It's always everybody else's fault but theirs. And somehow they have a way to explain everything that happens because they put a spin on it because they are the center of the universe. I know you all don't know anybody like this, where it's always everybody else's fault. And they're always blaming other people about what's wrong with them and what's wrong with the world. They are not the problem. They're always a victim, and somebody else is always doing something to them. It's always working against them. This is always happening. That's always happening. I know you don't know anybody like that. But expecting the world to treat you fairly just because you are an honest person, hear me carefully, is just like expecting a bull not to charge you just because you're a vegetarian. You have to be able to move on, just move on in life and realize that God can do some exceptional things on your behalf if you'll just trust him and realize it's not even about me. That the things that have happened to me have happened for the furtherance of the gospel. May I tell you that they are your troubles that are your resume. And until you have been through something, you're not even qualified to speak in my life. Don't tell me anything about trusting God until you have raised children and had to struggle and pray and wear your knees out saying, God, help me. You don't even qualify to speak into my life until you've had to pick yourself up from a busted marriage and now trust God to be able to help you to live your life in sanity once again, until you've been healed from a terminal illness, until you've gone through surgery. Don't talk to me about faith. This thing is not about you. It is about qualifying you to be able to minister comfort and encouragement and bring cheer to somebody else. You'll be surprised how much God wants to use you if you'll get over yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously. You need to learn to look in the mirror from time to time and take a good laugh. It's not that serious. Get over yourself. This is not just about you. Stop whining and belly aching and realize that's the only reason that this has happened. God could trust me with this. The stuff that maybe has happened to you, maybe he couldn't trust other people with it. But God is going to turn something that looked like misery in your life, he's going to turn it into ministry. I declare that what was stress is getting ready to turn into strength. And God will do a turnaround and qualify you in your own life, that he'll teach you how to pray, he'll teach you how to trust God, he'll teach you how to believe, he'll teach you how to do some things that you didn't even know you had the strength to do, the ability to do, the creativity to do, the comeback kid nature to do. I meant to let you fail in this area and then come back and say, you know what, I'm gonna have another baby, I'm gonna start another business. I'm not over because I'm an entrepreneur in my spirit. If you are, even if this business fails, there is another one in me that is coming down the pipeline ready to be birthed. When you realize this is not about me, it happened to me, but now I'm going to let it happen through me. And so I'm not going to let the blessing stop with me. This thing is so I can encourage somebody else who is down and out. So I can discourage somebody else who is frustrated. So I can just encourage somebody else who is frustrated with themselves and frustrated with God. It is so that I now can come with the ministry of consolation, ministering encouragement and comfort and joy to somebody else who's going through.